This video is a film study to focus on Nick Emmanwori and Devon Witherspoon, what they were able to do as a duo in Seattle's 37-9 win over the Atlanta Falcons in Week 14. Of course, they held the Falcons to 274 offensive yards, forced 3 turnovers, scored 31 points in a brilliant second half. I'll be honest with you, I'm somewhat disappointed by the fact that didn't happen in the first. That it didn't happen in the first half, to be a little bit picky. But look, they blew the doors off of Atlanta in the second half. 4 touchdowns on offense. Rashid Shaheed, I'll try to get a video out on him later Monday night. 100-yard kickoff return to break a 6-6 tie. Suddenly it's like 23-6, like almost 13 minutes of gameplay later. We're going to focus on Witherspoon and Emmanwori here. I think I've got 11 plays queued up. I'll try to be consistent throughout in how I spot shadow these guys. I'll generally do Witherspoon in yellow and then Emmanwori in purple. First of all, they just remind me of two horrible to deal with guards in basketball. If you've never played basketball, forgive me for this analogy. I apologize for that. But handling the ball against great athletes, particularly in a press defense situation where you've got the bulldog that you hate to try to bring the ball up court against in Witherspoon, and then the wing defender in Emmanwori that has great range and can steal the ball from almost anywhere. So first one that we'll show you here, I think, just illustrates how these guys are being used. It's a dime look, and you've got a quarter, half, Witherspoon dropping out, Emmanwori as well, 2 high safety structure. Of course, Julian Love returned to the field, so did Jarron Reed, but Love played, I think, 20 or maybe 22 snaps. In any case, as Cousins drops back, he's trying to decipher what's happening. Witherspoon, really great at communicating. He's a great athlete, super competitive. Maybe the level of durability is a relative weakness compared to all the other amazing skills that he's got. When you got him on the field and he's completely healthy, this is a devastating defensive player. He's one of my favorite guys, to be honest with you, to watch film of. I happen to say that every week about different guys for the Ravens, the Lions, or the Seahawks. I have too many favorite players at this point, but when they play with this much intensity and this much commitment, in this case a low tackle on Kyle Pitts, I believe, to hold Atlanta's tight end to only a 3-yard gain, it's easy to enjoy. Moving forward to the 4th possession, it's a 3-3 tie. Like I said, Seattle's offense, a little bit disappointing. Darnold had thrown an interception here, and then a hold on the Falcons creates the 1st and 20. Emmanwori, once again, is going to be in purple. First of all, he's on the right hash for the offense, the bottom side hash for our screen. Witherspoon's going to get the football. Bijan Robinson's going to get the football. Witherspoon is actually the boundary side corner up top. They use that a lot, and I'm not sure why. Josh Jobe wasn't on the field as much at times when I'm watching this film here. You got Witherspoon as the boundary side corner, but look at the commitment of Emmanwori. This is not a guess. This is not even anticipation. This is a read, film preparation. He's got great athletic ability, great range from a wingspan standpoint, but he's also prepared. I'm talking about Emmanwori, and I'll give you the end zone angle of this one so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The ball is handed off. They're comboing up to Jones. He's not supposed to be able to beat this tight end. It's understanding of the scheme. If this were a lesser talented player from an athletic standpoint, people would be more willing to say, hey, that's just a great read and reaction. This is a combination, if you ask me, both of these guys, in fact, is a combination of the athletic ability they've been given, the coaching they get, but also their understanding of certain formations and the situation. Here you've got a blocking scheme that's kind of interesting on the front side to our right-hand side of the screen. Tight end going to release up to Drake Thomas, the inside linebacker. Almost a little bit of a fold blocking type action with the left tackle peeling out to Boye Mafe. Tight end can't get to him because of the quickness of the recognition. It's not just the athletic ability and the burst. It's the fact that he was committed so quickly to the angle that means this tight end can't get to him. Emmanwori goes over the top of the first block, and then underneath of the combo up to Jones. You can see that the one offensive lineman kind of realizes it and looks back to Emmanwori. No way to get that handled. It's a difficult defense to navigate from an offensive perspective because they've got so much talent, number one, and because you have incredibly motivated, gifted athletes often stacked next to each other. Again, my basketball analogy or comparison, I think, is poignant in that when you have 2 great on-ball defenders well, Witherspoon and Emmanwori is my original analogy here. Just don't put them in the pick and roll. Just avoid those guys altogether if you can. And then sometimes in those zone press looks on the basketball court, it's awful to deal with. The best thing you can do is stop them from scoring so they can't press you on the back end. Kind of like if you know, you know. And so I understand I'm kind of cutting the audience because some people don't have experience with basketball. Moving to the very next play, it's after that tackle for loss. So Witherspoon at the bottom of our screen, Emmanwori at the top. 2nd and 18. Like I said, in the second quarter, the offense is still struggling. And this, it's fun to watch. I'm not a Vikings fan, but you have to give credit where credit is due. Van Ginkel is one of the best in the NFL at defending screens from an outside linebacker standpoint. We're talking about, this position here. Witherspoon, to me, is one of the best from the nickel spot. Incredibly disruptive at the point of attack. I think this is Kyle Pitts trying to block him. It's like the third, it might be a different tight end. I could be wrong there. Like the third time that a tight end has got his hands on Witherspoon and just can't deal with him. Ernest Jones IV makes the first contact, right? It's a great angle, recognition, and commitment by him. Unable to finish the tackle on Bijan Robinson, and Devon Witherspoon does. Hopefully the screen isn't too choppy when I rewind like that. Some people have asked that I don't just abruptly go back to a certain point in the play. Like I'll do that here. I prefer the rewind function. Like I said, hopefully it's not too difficult on the eyes, but feel free to give me feedback on which one you think is better. In any case, we're focusing on these two guys, Witherspoon and Emmanwori, kind of to the exclusion of other guys, but this is a great read by Ernest Jones IV. Spot shadowed in blue here. I think that kind of a couple of times in the game, Seattle kind of elicited these screens with these heavy blitz looks. This is not one of them, okay? This is a dime personnel. Emmanwori as the dime linebacker set up to the boundary. This is not one of them. So I'm not sure how they're able to react so quickly in certain cases, but with Witherspoon being at the point of attack, you've got this kind of wall, if you will, that disrupts everything. He's got a great ability to fight off these blocks. And, well, I guess one of the perspectives that I had the more I watched this game was, why would you continue to throw screens to his side? Again, it's very similar to the Van Ginkel dynamic. If you see him set to that side, you may want to check out of the screen altogether because he's just so damn good at defending them and causing problems for the blocking scheme. Of course, that could have something to do with your tight end and other wide receivers' willingness or unwillingness to block in the first place. Pretty cool that those first two plays off of this possession, or at least the last two plays I showed you, dealt with Emmanwori making a play on the run concept and then Witherspoon on the screen. And the third play in a row, or the third play in this sequence, or one of them I'm going to show you, 4th and 15. You've got an overload to the side. It's, of course, the blocked kick by Emmanwori. So the wing is put in a lot of conflict. I'm talking about the wing that's up here at the top side. Okay, generally, he's got to deal with the inside gap, just like everyone else on the extra point team, and try to shoot his hands to the outside to deal with a rusher on the outside. In this case, it's Emmanwori. Man, this play really reminds me of Reek Woolen, or at that time, Tariq Woolen's block kick against the 49ers that a teammate took back to the house in his rookie season of 2022. It's the extension, the complete commitment to his angle, getting his right arm out here. The explosiveness from an athletic standpoint is great. Do want to call attention to the little technique he'll use here with his left arm on the wing. I'm calling him a wing. He is functionally a wing, even though that's an offensive lineman. Knocking that guy's hand down and then using that to propel himself on a low pad level. There's no one else there. It's not like a kick-out concept or a run play where the quarterback could theoretically or possibly keep it. You know what's happening. You know where you need to launch for. There's drills for that exact launch point, and it's just spectacular use of his left hand with the chop, and that lowers his pad level, keeping his cleats in the ground, and then the right hand a split second later to get the block. I know I'm breaking it down in minute detail or slow motion at times, and these things happen quickly. I feel like, at least for me anyway, that's the only way to do justice to what was Not just brilliant effort and exhibition of his length, but timing and technique at the same time. Same play from the end zone angle. Like I said, they're attempting a field goal here to take a 6-3 lead. The overload is to the right, and then Ernest Jones is going to actually move to that side as well. I think it's Julian Love's block from earlier in the season. Very reminiscent, same scheme basically, in that you're running underneath of the wing with, I think it's 23, and then Emmanwori with the diving effort on the outside of the wing is actually the guy that gets the block. Love in that earlier one is the guy that blocked it by jumping through the wing and then replanting and exploding up. In this case, Emmanwori with the chop down and then he's got wide wingspan. He's a big body, obviously, but you've got to be committed. These things don't just happen easily because you're a great athlete. There's technique and commitment to what you're doing at the same time. Again, my comparison to a wing defender in the NBA or basketball in general, I think is one that kind of sticks. Atlanta probably lucky that the ball didn't take a different bounce. Like I said, it really reminds me of the block that Woolen had against the 49ers down inside the 5, I think on like the 2 in his rookie season. Another one involving Emmanwori. We're still into the first half. Very Kyle Hamilton-esque with the reaction and the ability to go underneath of the block. This is, I believe, Atlanta's 5th possession. I may have my possession information wrong, but I know that the quarter, the score, and the time remaining is accurate. In any case, it's an outside zone run concept with Algier to his right, our left-hand side of the screen, the left-hand side for Seattle's defense. And Emmanwori goes underneath of the tackle's block. He's actually kind of changing the blocking angles or rules, if you will. Normally, oftentimes, I should say, you're going to have this initial combo on the defensive end. The right tackle here just not adjusting at all to Emmanwori's new alignment, and it results in another tackle for loss. In addition, he's once again lined up next to Ernest Jones IV. So I'm not saying you can gamble, but the idea here is if Emmanwori does get pinned by this offensive tackle, then Ernest Jones IV could easily climb over the top and meet the running back in the hole. Same play from the all-22 angle. Again, he's spot shadowed in purple here. It's going to be a run concept to our bottom side of the screen. Tight end is going to step to the edge defender. I believe that's Hall. And that's initially where the right tackle is stepping as well. And because Emmanwori had stepped to the inside with the motion, it kind of changed his alignment. Right tackle just doesn't respond well, and by the time he recognizes it, by the time he sees it, Emmanwori's already through. Algier is not an easy guy to tackle. The Ravens have actually played against him, I believe, late 2022, and in a preseason situation. For Emmanwori to be able to just dip and flip this guy up like this when he's trying to elevate, everything is there already at this point in his rookie year. What I mean is the athletic ability, the coverage ability, playing downhill against screens. I don't think I have his sack here in this video, to be honest with you. 5th possession still. After that tackle for loss, very next snap, Emmanwori down here is the dime linebacker, and then Witherspoon set up as the nickel to the top side. 2 high safety structures. It's going to be a really good ball from Cousins to Pitts to beat Emmanwori at the bottom side of the screen. It looks to me like he's a little slow here, kind of transitioning and turning his hips to run. The Seahawks have dropped Love down from that 2 high safety structure. And with this guy running underneath, and I think that's Job taking him, it really opens up the deep kind of corner route for Pitts. Really well thrown ball over the top by Cousins. I think it ends up for a 30-yard gain. I do want to point out on the top side of our screen, continually you see the communication during the play. I think it's from Witherspoon because of the release. Here you've got a stacked alignment. And because the inside receiver goes out, that's why Witherspoon is releasing him to Woolen. So essentially I think you've got a match coverage up to the top side. Doesn't involve the play because, like I said, obviously Pitts is the target. that Cousins goes to. I really like the matchup still. This is one of the things they drafted Emmanwori for. Something that I was thinking about while watching the All-22 earlier today is there any information, any articles or anything about the pre-draft process and how many times Seattle made contact with Emmanwori? Basically what information they knew in terms of how quickly he was going to be able to catch on to all these variable alignments. Sometimes he's a nickel DB, sometimes he's a dime linebacker, and the ability to play match coverages, even though here to the bottom side, I don't think he was in match. Witherspoon and Woolen were at the top. To me, the coverage versatility, along with all the reads he's being given, means that Seattle knew that this is pretty much what they were going to get. The versatility was going to be quick and immediate. We've moved to the third quarter now. Seahawks up 13-6 after the 100-yard return by Shaheed on the opening kickoff. In fact, Witherspoon here is going to recover the fumble. I think they give Jones this forced fumble, or maybe they just say Bijan Robinson fumbled it. It just doesn't make sense to me. But in any case, Leonard Williams is the guy who is initially denying Robinson his track. So Robinson's track is here, and Williams is the guy who's taking an offensive lineman, driving him upfield, such that Robinson's got to cut downhill. I think it's Jerron Reed on the backside. And then Ernest Jones as well. They make contact. Witherspoon has always got eyes on the football. He reminds me of someone who's always looking. He's always lurking and paying attention. That's about as far as I'll go with that analogy. Kobe Bryant gets an opportunity to maybe recover it, and the ball bounces right to Witherspoon's hands. Let me give you the end zone angle so you can see what I mean. I don't think this is Witherspoon just being in the right place at the right time so often. In my opinion, he's someone who can execute the responsibility he's given, and he can keep eyes on the football at the same time. So here's Robinson's path to our left, kind of like this off-tackle zone. Williams getting upfield, forcing him to cut it underneath. They tried to block Reed on the backside. He's able to sprawl so quickly. Ernest Jones IV is there. The play-by-play data just says fumble by Bijan Robinson. There has to be some recognition that one of these guys, or maybe two of them, forced it, but it wasn't Ernest Jones IV to me. In any case, Witherspoon, eyes on the ball, like I said, after Bryant is unable to recover it, he scoops it up. I actually kind of mentioned this a couple of weeks ago in a video, I think about the Seahawks pass rush. These guys are actually competing with each other within each individual play for the tackle, for the fumble recovery, for the sack, etc. And in this case, I think Witherspoon and Nick Emmanwori are probably competing with each other for Defensive Player of the Week. In any case, the lead has stretched to 20-6 now into the third quarter. I think it's the 8th possession for Atlanta, but it theoretically could be the 9th. It was the touchdown to JSN, like 26 or 28-yarder, that pushed the lead to 14. We'll talk about Witherspoon on this play, although mentioned that Emmanwori is lined up as basically an edge defender, an outside linebacker, 9 technique, whatever, as they've created basically a 5-1 look from their nickel platform. Taking the edge defender Hall and kicking him down to the inside. This is what they've done a lot of this season with DeMarcus Lawrence. Run concept is to that side, and you can see that Emmanwori is trying not to get expanded. Number 1. Did a pretty good job, if you ask me, comboing up to Ernest Jones IV and gives Bijan Robinson, maybe an opportunity to cut downhill here. But Witherspoon, again, he's always able to track and find the football, and in this case, jumps underneath the offensive lineman and then makes the tackle. Not an easy job, obviously, to tackle Bijan Robinson or Tyler Algiers, to be honest with you. But Witherspoon is a sure tackler because of his tenacity and because he's committed and really because he wants to. Still on that 8th possession, or what I believe to be the 8th possession, so 3rd and 3. Last week, Mike McDonald called the forced fumble by DeMarcus Lawrence his favorite play, perhaps ever. This one may be mine, at least for this week. So Witherspoon, the nickel, Emmanwori, the dime, but they're on the same side, so that's interesting. I'd like to see a little bit more of this and see how often they're playing this type of coverage. It looks like it's man, basically. That's the idea here. Man on those two on the outside. And then with Emmanwori and Witherspoon set up together over number 2 and number 3 to trips, you would think it'd be man. It's not. They match it. And so Witherspoon, first of all, shows his agility, awareness, and then body control to basically dodge the offensive player, not make too much contact with him, if you will, and get his hand on the football to cause a deflection. Maybe some would say it's fortuitous, the way that it bounced to Emmanwori. But in my opinion, you have to give him, Emmanwori, credit for the way he read this coverage. And so what I mean is the route by the tight end is going to go to the outside and then almost go like a corner. And he releases that to Bryant, the too high safety. As a result of that, releasing it so quickly and staying square, not turning his body too much, when Witherspoon makes the pass deflected, he's still in position to be able to see the football, which deflected right to him. Basically, I'm saying this isn't pure chance. In my opinion, Emmanwori reacted well, and that kind of goes back to what I said earlier, in that you're not just talking about someone with supreme or high-level athletic ability. You're talking about someone as a rookie this year who's got great awareness of the routes and the coverage that's called and how he should react. Same play from the end zone angle, Emmanwori, Witherspoon. Camera work is kind of funky from the NFL, but in any case, you got a 5-man look up front, and then they're going to drop Ernest Jones to 4th out. Creates a 4-man rush opportunity, and Cousins trying to throw the football, and you can see, number 1, that Witherspoon is here to challenge. Gets kind of fuzzy, obviously, sometimes when the camera moves, so my apologies for that. But it's a great challenge, but also getting his body situated on this side such that he can't be called for pass interference is important, number 1. And number 2, Emmanwori tried to stay somewhat square and not have his body turned with the outside release receiver. I think it's number 87. Allows him to stay in position to still get the deflection. It's the mental processing of these guys, having them both on the field at the same time with 2 safeties and 2, quote, outside corners in Woolen and Job is borderline unfair. Basically, I don't think Emmanwori is there for the interception if he doesn't recognize the release by the receiver. In any case, the offense goes down. It's a total onslaught at this point, and I think they go up 30-6. Moving forward here to the next possession, I believe it's the 9th. It's a 2nd and 10. Atlanta's actually got a field goal to close to 30-9. So it's a dime look. Witherspoon is the nickel DB, and Witherspoon, Emmanwori, is down here at the bottom. Witherspoon is the nickel DB at the top. 2 high safety structure. Love is not on the field at this point. He only played, I believe, 20 or maybe 22 snaps. In any case, what I love about the ability to have these 2 guys on the field at the same time is you can match up on 2 with the nickel and the dime linebacker, and then almost at sometimes triangulate the outside receivers, really protect your corners, in this case, Woolen and Job with the 2 safety structure. Witherspoon, great reaction, identifying the route in man, but still being able to keep eyes on the quarterback. If you can get to the quarterback with 4, especially the 4 or 5 or 6 pass rushers that you've got, and this is your coverage group, it's remarkable, and it's a special group. I'm not saying that they can't have the opportunity to be so in 2026, but you should appreciate situations like this from a talent and execution standpoint when you have them. 3rd and 7, another screen to his side. Again, I think at some point NFL offenses need to look at guys, Van Ginkel, Witherspoon, whoever, and say, okay, if we're going to throw a screen to that side, we need to check to something else. I believe that maybe Seattle has elicited this. So shown blitz and then kind of forced Atlanta to check into a screen. The tenacity and difficulty with which it must be to try to block Witherspoon, again, reminds me of basketball, a great on-ball defender that you just can't screen because he refuses to be kept from the football. Another thought, if you've ever looked at drills on YouTube or any other website, look this one up if you get a chance. Kirby Smart, I think, calls it the Millennial Oklahoma. And the idea is that you get 3 receivers and 3 DBs and possibly an inside linebacker included in the drill, and you just run stuff like this over and over and over again because that's what you see at that level. And one of the things he said really stuck with me for years. He said, these guys, the receivers, the tight ends, they want the ball. These guys playing defense, well, maybe that guy all the time, they want to kick somebody's ass. Devon Witherspoon, he wants to kick somebody's ass. And he's a perfect fit he's a perfect fit for any defense. But in particular, this group, the way that they're structured and the way they execute. This play also reminds me of something that occurred on one of the 2 touchdowns that DeMarcus Lawrence had against the Cardinals, whereby Lawrence was responsible for the initial stunt, and then he ended up having the ball pop up to him after the hit by Tyrese Knight. The idea here is if you do what's asked of you within the scheme, sometimes the football gods or the universe, however you want to describe it or whatever you believe, rewards you. And this is another example of it. In any case, they definitely draw off the screen here on the 3rd and 7. The game's over at this point functionally. Watch the reaction by Reed. First game back, I believe. I don't think he played in the previous week, but he's reading the blocker, the center. It's a left-handed center, which you don't see a ton of. Moving to his right or left, and Reed is reacting to it, but also keeping an eye on the quarterback. Everyone else, Williams, Mafe, and then I think Hall is trying to rush. There's the disruption that occurs. I mean, it cannot be fun to deal with Devon Witherspoon anyway because how much he talks, how physical he is, how good of a football player he is. I would love it if we got this version of Devon Witherspoon for the rest of the season because Seattle's defense would obviously be in great hands. They held Atlanta to 274 yards, forced 3 turnovers, scored 31 points in the second half, like I said. And those 2 guys, here's what they did. They combined for, I think, 13, maybe 14 tackles. Forgive the graphic. As I look at it now, I can tell it's not very well done. But in any case, Nick Emmanwori blocked a field goal. He had a sack. They had 2 interceptions, but Devon Witherspoon was involved in both of them. Witherspoon also has the fumble recovery. I think one or both of these guys should definitely be in the running for Defensive Player of the Week. The crazy thing is it's a different guy next week. It's a different player or pairing at times so far throughout 13 games. They're 10-3 at this point, clearly with some important games coming up. Would love to get a win against the Rams coming up and really justify the hype that people like me have been giving this defense for a long time. They deserve it. I think they actually played really well against the Rams earlier in the year, even though they gave up more points than you would possibly expect them to. I think the turnovers, the offensive instability that happened that week and has kind of been an issue a little bit even since then is a big factor. Got to limit turnovers when you're playing the good teams like the Rams and moving forward in the playoffs. This defense is legit. These 2 guys spearheaded the effort in Week 14. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Seahawks fans would enjoy this film study look at Emmanwori and Witherspoon and what they were able to put together in totally dominating Atlanta for the 2nd year in a row, in fact, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.